What's that? Yeah, yeah, nice.
Yeah, but you have something in yours.
Yeah. Takes one to know it. See ya.
How are you?
Good afternoon. Nice to see you.
Are you going to change the lighting a little bit to improve my color?
Yeah, I've got it's all done electronically these
Oh,
days.
good.
Yeah, we'll fix it in post. As far as you know.
Never know the difference.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's what we have to do.
It's been worse.
I really can do this now. I think I got it. Okay. The fourth category would be economic innovations and workforce development. In this category, we're looking at such things as workforce training, a significant issue in West Michigan, in fact, across the state and the country, and food licensing fee waivers. And in the fifth category, we're looking at improving government operations. This would be such things as government facility improvements, new technologies for how we function, and addressing customer service kinds of projects. So those are the 5 large buckets that we've identified. And obviously there's an awful lot of things that can fit into those buckets. And that's what we want to be able to pursue now, and to find out what does the community think about, where do we prioritize within those buckets, among those buckets, and what other ideas do you have that we ought to be considering? So having made it to the end of my slides successfully, I'm going to pass this over to Al Vandenberg, who is our county administrator, to explain in more detail this process.
Thank you, Chair Stack. I decided I wouldn't try to chew gum, move the slides, and talk all at the same time. So the engagement. So per the ARPA Act, we are to engage the public, and even though it's required, we would do it anyways, simply because we think it's the right thing to do, and we believe that there will be things that we don't think of. I mean, we don't know it all, and we have over 660,000 people in Kent County, and certainly we value that input tremendously. There's different ways that we are going about achieving that engagement. So there is a survey and idea form that's been sent out. We actually sent it out to 90,000 stakeholders, and we also made it available online through kentcountyarpa.com. And the survey asks residents to rank the 5 priority groups that Chair Steck outlined a few moments ago, and also to share ideas on how that funding should be spent. It'll also collect demographic information to ensure that we count for the different populations that make up our very diverse county. There's also a proposal form, and that will collect funding proposals from the community, from organizations, from individuals, and we developed this form to allow detailed funding requests to be submitted for consideration. Printed copies of the survey and proposal are available in the county administrator's office, and additional one-on-one meetings will be held with disparately impacted communities within Kent County. In fact, those meetings have already started, and more are scheduled. There's also 3 community forums. You're at the first one. And then there's also one Monday, June 6th at Rockford High School in the Creative Teaching and Learning Center. I should say tonight's is also being live streamed. And then Wednesday, June 8th, we're in Gaines Charter Township for the 3rd forum. So this is just an outline of the process, and I'll probably emphasize more than once that some of the instruction we had from the federal government, and something we're really taking to heart, is that we do want to fund transformational projects. And the way I would define a transformational project, it isn't just a one-off where you spend the money's gone, and we move on. It's more something where you invest the money, and then it has future impacts, future growth. It impacts quality of life. It impacts community wealth. It impacts improvement of services, of something into the future. So I like to say a transformational impact reverberates into the future and keeps on echoing into the future. So basically the process and timeline, the survey and proposal portal was opened in May. The survey and idea form closes on June 24. And then the funding proposals form closes on July 15. And then through July, August, September, the Board of Commissioners will be reviewing and approving projects for funding over that time frame. We are anticipating that we will very likely get requests for funding that significantly exceeds the amount of money we have. So obviously those will be difficult decisions in deciding what projects are the most feasible and transformational. So we're at a discussion time, and we will take comments both in person and online. And so the first discussion question, so as you look into the next 5 years, what is the single most important thing you think the county should focus on? So feel free to break the ice and jump out there and be the first person making a comment. Yes.
I'm biased on this. My particular passion is affordable housing, and not only, in our state, but in our country. We're currently in a housing crisis. And as you indicated, with transformational change, housing, I think, is one particular area where that can happen, particularly at the county and the city, because we're in a pivotal time in our country when it's gonna be critical that we work together to overcome many of the obstacles that we're facing today. And as you say, transformational change should impact now and into the future. And I think affordable housing, and not just affordable housing, my concern is housing for every resident in this country, that they have a safe, and quality, and to in fact quality of life. And I think the foundation of that is housing. So that would be mine.
Thank you very much. Do we have other comments? Yes, over here. I missed the step where I was supposed to say, please go up to the podium, but we're certainly willing to run the mic out to folks as well. So.
Thank you. Well, I would like to say that in the next 5 years, I would like to see the county focus on helping to not see the services and institutions that we have currently go in reverse. I've seen COVID have a negative effect on all types of industry, including restaurants. You could also say housing. You could say a lot of different things have been affected by COVID in a negative fashion. And I'd really like to see the efforts that we're making here today with this funding fund those types of projects that are going to, again, transform the future, but also not regress at this point from where we stand. I can make some specific examples. I'm going to hold off on doing that right now, but I really would like to see those things that are going to allow this to not go backwards, to see this go forward and to improve our community, as opposed to seeing these negative effects that this pandemic has had on the institutions that we currently have in place.
Thank you. Other comments? Feel free to jump right in.
Don't make me hold this thing.
Well, we all know that mental health is a major issue all over the country, and as well as here in our own city. And so I don't have a specific proposal, a project in mind, but I know that someplace it will evolve around probably mental health or something related to it. There are other issues, health-related, community health, things that might move the needle in terms of our community health needs assessment and some of the issues that are brought up there. So there are just a host of things that could be addressed that would be transformational. But mental health certainly is one of them.
Thank you. This is a good group. We're 3 for 3 on transformational ideas, so keep it up.
That is my pet project. Can I give the mic back to her and have her keep talking? All right.
Other comments? Oh, I know they're out there. Go ahead and jump right in. Okay, back here. You're gonna get a workout if nothing else. So
It's worse than campaign.
Thanks. So I'm kind of just looking at this for the first time, so I don't have any specific ideas off the top of my head right now. I'm sure I will as we move on, but my name is Isaac DeGraff. I'm the Advocacy and Policy Liaison at Link Up, and we're a community development nonprofit over at Hall and Madison. And I know we would love, hosting these meetings is awesome. We would love to host a meeting at our gallery space, a community meeting. I know you mentioned doing one-on-one meetings with the disparate impact communities, but have you thought about doing a community meeting at us or, at the center of NAACP or somewhere, in 49507 zip code that we could have some of these discussions and talk about more ideas?
sure, if you would connect with Lori in the back of the room so we have your contact info, that'd be great. For those who came in more recently, we're considering the question right now of, well, here you go. I flipped my thing. What is the most impactful thing, transformational area that Kent County could spend ARPA money on in the next 5 years? So biggest impact in the next 5 years. Other ideas?
You got $127 million to spend. Oh, that got the hands up. Look at that.
Hi, my name's Jan Vanderwoord. I lead the real estate development and management group at ICCF Community Homes. So I'm speaking on behalf of my organization. Our perspective very much is that this community is in the middle of, and certainly not anywhere close to the end of, an affordable housing crisis. We have an inventory issue. We have a supply issue. We have a demand that we've never seen before. And the trickle-down logic of economics says that those at the bottom of the price scale are the most impacted on a per capita. And the interesting piece about the affordable housing crisis and the housing crisis right now is that this is not just about affordable housing anymore. People who used to be able to afford a market rate house are freaking out about availability. People who can afford almost $300,000 have nothing to buy. So we're really, in a way, glad that the community all sees it now. People with great jobs and master's degrees can't buy houses, but single moms with 2 or 3 kids that works 2 jobs certainly can't buy a house. So I'll put words into the mouths of some of the other organizations that are here representing 49507, but it would be a huge loss if affordable housing wasn't a driving priority here. And we have a ton of precedent on how to roll these dollars out in existing programs. It's not cutting a new path. It's not blazing a new trail. It's underscoring and amplifying some of the strong programs that already exist. So that would be our organization's hope and prayer.
Thank you.
Did you have your hand up too? I bet you can give an emphasis to it.
Hi, I'm here speaking on just behalf of myself because I think Isaac and this gentleman here hit the nail on the head on the affordable housing. An idea that I put out, in the long term is like I've been reading a lot about sovereign wealth of funds like in Norway. It was like, well, what if we did that on the county level, while if we can invest in businesses here in Kent County and greater West Michigan and create a sort of stipend for folks to receive a yearly benefit, and increase the retention of talent here in the region. So I saw that.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Fred Wyman. I'm a citizen. I don't represent anyone other than myself, and I could say my wife as well. I've talked with her about this, but I think one of the big issues is affordable housing, but I'm not going to speak to that because I have no particular expertise in it. But I think what we need to look at is using existing resources in a way where they can be less centralized. I'm thinking about mental health and physical health. Right now, we have hospitals that do a great job, but not everybody can afford that. And I'm thinking maybe a more diverse, neighborhood-centered approach to physical and mental health might be something that this grant could help support. And here you go. I'll take it to the next one if you like.
Well, it's hard to know where they are.
Thank you.
And one other thing too, and I think you mentioned this as well, is, and I know a lot of times in the community, people are really concerned about the lack of access in public transportation. So it might be worth a look to see how maybe you could close the gaps and expand it, because sometimes it even impacts people's ability to get to work, which is really important, which speaks to workforce development. You don't keep a job if you can't get there. And usually, there are some cities that have excellent transportation systems. And you should maximize what you have. I'm never one for advocating spending money that I don't have to, but I'm going to take a good look to make sure that the dollars count and help the citizens that live in our city and our county. So if you could look at that.
All right. Thank you.
I agree with the gentleman over here about small businesses that are still struggling, even though, there's no more grant money. There's some grant money. I just probably don't know where they're at, but haven't found it yet. And I'd like to see some of this money to go to these restaurants, small businesses. I run a yoga studio, still struggling trying to keep the doors open. It also addressed the mental health from a yoga perspective, trauma. People that dealing with loss of job, COVID. I have a couple of ladies that are nurses and said they lost their jobs because it was hard for them to deal with it mentally. And there's research that shows that, yoga really helps people with stress, trauma, anxiety. So that was something I would like to really see some of that money go toward. And mostly to people, I don't want to say older people, but most of the people that around here, I was riding in with Fred, and I see young people. We don't, if people a little bit older, they go to in the studio, they don't see people that look like them, they're not going to come back. So I'd like to see an emphasis on, helping people, get their mental health, physical health together. Then they have the capability to do the other stuff with a clear mind, hopefully.
Thank you. The single most important thing the county should focus on. Do we have other suggestions, other input on this question?
Mr. Truer just walked in, so he has a comment, I'm sure.
All right, going once, going twice. We have another question.
Is there anyone online, Steve, that we're not catching?
Right, we do have, oh, I thought we had two. Okay.
Is there any other, did you have a comment here? That hand is almost up. That's close enough to get the mic.
Almost up. I guess I don't think that there is one single most important thing in the county. I look at the city that I live in and the greater Kent County and see issues everywhere. I work in the nonprofit field. I work with 17 different nonprofit organizations from Northern Kent County to the, 49507 location. I have, health clinic clients and hospital clients. And there is not one single issue that has been brought up here that isn't the most important thing. So I would just hope with this $127.6 million that it's spread across the board. I can't begin to understand what the cost of all these programs are. I can't begin to know how the people that are in control are going to pass out the funding or find a way to what is the most important funding. But I think we have to look at the big picture. Transportation is a huge issue. Mental health is at the top of the list. Housing is in a crisis mode. Northern Kent County, you can't get transportation. There is no bus system. There is no affordable housing. There is no property to rent. We can go on and on and on. So I just hope that there's a wide swath and that everything is looked at.
And absolutely, that is the case. We're not looking to figure out, get a vote on what that number one thing is and put all the money into that. We know there will be a range of things. The key is it transformational? With the CARES Act, as Chair Steck mentioned, the goal was get it out to business, get it out to families, get it out in the community, keep everybody afloat. The county's made thousands of small grants of the CARES Act money. And the idea behind the ARPA money is to do a smaller number of grants to projects that are transformational in the areas that you mentioned. Every single one of those is a transformational area. And so it might be in the dozens or instead of the thousand. So it's kind of more of that kind of focus.
Yeah, where is that point where you have to spend this much to be transformational? Well, there is no magic line, but we know in general, we won't be able to do hundreds of projects and have transformational impact. We'll have to do significantly fewer. But the objective here is whatever those projects are, they're going to make a significant difference in the field that we are working.
All right, this was just a discussion starter. So if you have any other input beyond that question, feel free to give it. So what else is on your mind regarding the ARPA funding and ideas that you think are transformational, suggestions for how you think the money should be spent?
Is this the first of many questions, or is there going to be more discussion?
There's another slide.
That's not a discussion.
Right. No,
I
actually,
know,
I
it's in
thought
my
there were two,
worksheets.
but I think the idea was just to get the discussion started. But I think I did see two earlier, right, Lori? All right, so wait, you know what? I might even have it in this paper copy, so I'm going to have to challenge Chair Steck's agility with all the different things going on up here.
Well, I
so-
know I saw another couple of questions.
Okay, here we go.
And I thought you had the cheat sheets because you must have known there are more there.
I just have more to say. It's just.
Oh.
All right. The other question or the other discussion starter, I guess, was in considering the needs of our residents, what are some ideas for the county to consider that will move us collectively forward? So that's a broad, we should be able to fit anything in that one, right?
It's broad, but we're looking for a little
All
more
right.
focus. What are some of these ideas? What's the kind of projects that come to mind within housing, for example? I mean, housing's a great amorphic kind of concept, but what is it, the project that needs to be? Having asked, you have the answer.
Thanks for the opportunity to talk. And if I'm on my soapbox too much, somebody just tell me to quit. One of the beautiful things about the CARES program and a lot of stimulus dollars was in a moment of absolute crisis and emergency. Crisis and emergency dollars flowed en masse into this community and helped people with rent stabilizing funds, coupled with an eviction moratorium, which stopped an inevitable mass eviction of the lowest income people most impacted by COVID related economic changes. And we are talking in the many tens of millions of dollars if you conglomerate all the different sources that went through CARES or through the SARA program or Salvation Army's initiative or private funds that came into that same arena. And it seemed very timing appropriate because we had something that came quick. I would implore that we look more long-term in terms of an investment with the remaining fund, with this source, which is a beautiful, beautiful problem for the county to have, is to how to allocate this. I'm not saying that all emergency uses of funds should stop, but I am saying that like that's the predominant vehicle and the way that funds were allocated before. And we hope it's more strategic, more long-term thinking. So if it's producing affordable housing, that it be with organizations that are proven and trusted in the community to provide that. And I'm not claiming in any regard that ICCF is the only group doing this. We are very blessed with many groups in town with many decades of work in this field. There will be people there will be sharks that circle when these funds become available that don't have business providing that level of support and social service in the community. But I hope the dollars go in an investment format. That could be in home ownership, that could be in rental, that could be in new shelter space. But as opposed to direct rent assistance to individuals, we're excited to see what comes out that's more long-term focused.
Thank you. I think we have someone here who's thinking about it. Yeah.
So
Right there.
So there's a lot being talked about here today. There's a lot of things that have to be considered when you talk about who is deserving of funds of